Welcome back to Garden Talk, brought to you by the Penn State Erie County Extension Master Gardeners. And again, today I'm your co host, Mike Bailey, along with Ellen DePlacido. Ellen, are you with us?
I am. Good morning,
Ah,
Mike.
good morning. Okay. Yes. Hey, today is the 27th program of the season
Right.
already. And today
Mm-hmm.
we're going to talk about insect control in the vegetable garden, part one. Right?
Right.
So, this
That's
is
right.
important topics, right?
It is. And that's why we're saying part one, because this is one of the most important topics when it comes to home vegetable gardening. An infestation can destroy your entire crops if it gets out of control. So that's why we really feel that this is very important. But home gardeners are confronted with an endless list of agents to address problems like this. So we're all concerned with the safety of our vegetables and our environment. We want to do things safely. So we're not sure how many programs we're going to devote to this topic, but it may end up being four or five. But we're that's how important it is to us. And we think that it is to you also, because you want to be as organic as possible when you garden, hopefully. So, in the end, our goal is to give you a list of what we'll call substances at this stage of the game that you may need to control insect outbreaks in your garden. And our goal is not to give you not to completely eliminate bad bugs, but to keep them at a level where damage is minimal, where it does not destroy your garden.
Yeah, you're right. So, I mean, this is a funny line to follow, and
Uh-huh.
you and I have put a
Yeah.
lot of time and effort and research into this whole process. And what we don't
Right.
want is to have a gardener think that they have to have a whole cabinet filled with all kinds of different
Mm-hmm.
components, some of which are toxic.
Right.
Because if you garden right, and it takes a while to get to that particular point, and even the two of us who have been gardening for a long time, we still bumble a little bit each and every year. And say, I shouldn't have done that. What's the matter with me? I missed that. Okay, I can do better than that. Or you used the wrong
Right.
substance.
Right.
But each year we kind of get a little bit better, and you try to trim down the number of tools that you need because you don't need a lot of tools, in that cabinet to try to address this particular problem. So we're going to try over the next several sessions, like Ellen said, and it might be four or five, to kind of give you an idea of what substances you might need to have on hand and when might be the appropriate time or place to use them.
Use them. Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
we decided that what we're going to do right up front, we're going to give you this list. I think we got 8 things on it, and
Mm-hmm.
all of which are, well, most of which are biologicals, are very benign substances. There's a couple at the end that are a little bit more toxic, but we've tried to pick substances for that end component that are that break down easily in the environment, okay, and don't pose a major problem for you and or things in the environment itself. So, taking things from the top, uh,
Mm-hmm.
insecticidal soap, okay, can certainly be used for aphids and a couple of other things, and we'll elaborate on that as we go along. But insecticidal soap is a good thing to have on hand, and it's not. You can't just take some Dawn out of the kitchen and mix it up in a sprayer and use that. No, that's not what we want you to do. It's really important that you purchase some, you know, pre-made stuff to do this. You can have your best luck with that. The other thing is horticultural oils. And, 10 years ago, they weren't very popular, but they've certainly increased in popularity and they've refined those things to the point where they can be used at all different stages of the season now. Then there's that BT, which I mentioned, I think, in the last program,
Mm-hmm.
our Bacillus thuringiensis. And I tell my friend all the time that I went to school with her and I had a crush on her. Okay. Dear little Bacillus. Okay. Sick, isn't it?
Oh boy.
Yes, you're right.
A little
Okay.
bit.
Yeah. And like I said, it comes in a liquid or a powder. And it's a biological, and it's typically for those creatures like those cabbage worms that we mentioned on, and they eat that, they consume that, it gets into their digestive tract, and it kind of the bacteria kind of messes up their digestive tract. We've all experienced that once or twice, okay? But this actually kills those things. Then there's neem, which is another biological a component of the end product of some plants that they've crushed up and ground up and things like that. So that's a nice one to use also. Again, we'll elaborate on it later. Then we talked about the iron phosphate because slugs can be real troublesome, in the garden. And iron phosphate is a very good, benign substance to use. Yeah, and in fact, the iron component of it, okay, is very good for the soil. But it really it sluggos the slugs. Okay, so that's a good one to have on. The other one is pyrethrums. Uh, Again, a component of a certain brand, a type of chrysanthemums. Again, and that has its role, in the proper place, and can be quite effective on certain insects. And then the last one that we have, which is probably, if you're going to talk about toxic, okay, it's probably this one, and it's carbaryl, Carbyl. And most of us probably know this as 7.
7.
And it's typically put on as a powder, a white powder, and used as directed. It can be very effective. And like I said, it breaks down quite easily in the soil, and doesn't have to be a problem for your vegetables, or for you, or for the environment. And that's your last step. There's a lot of years we go by and don't use any carbaryl or 7 in the garden at all. We rely upon these other components to take care of things, along with some cultural practices, and they're very important, aren't they, Ellen?
Yes, they are. And
Yeah.
we talk about that quite a bit too.
Right.
Um, I want to add maybe a little plug in here. You and I both have this book. It's called Good Bugs and Bad Bugs. And
Yes.
there are many, many, many more good bugs than there are bad bugs. So we're going to stress being careful that you don't go into your garden and kill all the bugs that are in there, because most of those bugs in your garden are good bugs.
In fact,
Sorry, I
no,
had
no,
to
no,
do
that's
that.
wonderful, wonderful point. In fact, at Emmaus, we actually devoted one of the garden beds to plants, to flowers that attract good bugs.
Good bugs.
Because if you can keep the good bugs in your garden, okay, they will take care of those predators or those bad bugs when they appear. But
Right.
during the off times for those predators, if you will, those good bugs need some material. They need some nectar. They need some pollen and some plant material that they like to eat and consume. So it's important to have some feed in there for those good bugs to keep them
Right.
around and keep them attracted.
Right.
Okay, toasted marshmallows and things like that.
Yeah.
Keep the good bugs there. So I
Yeah.
think, Ellen, we've used up our time again. So
Okay.
I'm looking forward to these next 3 or 4 weeks. On going over this subject, because it's a subject that I really like and I think is very, very important.
Okay.
Very good. Okay.
All right.
Thank you for listening. Now, bye bye.
Mm-hmm.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.